Hi, everyone. It's Alan Crawford, your host for the AI Risk Reward podcast. And our special guest is Michael Erlihson, math PhD AI influencer who has reviewed 500 plus papers without using AI, 2 podcasts, and is head of AI at DriveNet. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me here on your podcast.
Yeah, this looks like it's going to be an amazing show. And you know, our theme is your biggest AI risk is not cybersecurity, it's AI making us stupid. So that goes back to the whole, is Google making us stupid from the early 2000s? The answer is definitely yes, right? But I think what I really like doing is going back in time, right? A math PhD is a pretty serious endeavor. Like what were you focused on for your thesis, for example?
Okay, let's start from the beginning. I was born in quite scientific family. You know, my dad has a PhD in physics, in something between physics and chemistry. I don't understand exactly, although he tried to explain me, but it is too tough. And my sister, my little sister, has a PhD in something related to history, the history of ancient England, something very unrelated to math. And only my mom doesn't have a PhD. He has only second degree, only master degree. And when I started my education. By the way, I was born in Russia, and I immigrated to Israel in 1999. And I actually graduated from Moscow Aviation University, and I had my master's degree from there. And then when I immigrated to Israel, I started to think if I want to continue to PhD. And then my dad kind of told me, you can be worse than me. You can, you got to be better than me. So basically, I had no choice but to pursue my PhD, and my degree from Moscow Aviation University was in computer science and math, and but actually I liked math more than computer science. So I basically chosen, I'm going to do some PhD, but it's something applied. I thought before I started that it's gonna be applied, and it wasn't this way actually. And I started and basically my PhD was in stochastic processes. In stochastic processes, and there's something which sounds really esoteric, right? Like random combinatorial structures, and that is quite tough math. And basically I opened my PhD thesis 3 years ago, and basically I was able to understand basically nothing. And so all these theorems, and but it was quite cool. And I was thinking then whether I want to pursue my scientific career to go to some professor in the university. And then I decided not to do it. I thought that going to the industry will be more fun, and it was more fun.
Totally. And look, every journey has key influences, right? You obviously had your parents, you talked about that. Was there another mentor or maybe your thesis advisor who really shaped your perspective on data science or machine learning?
There are many people who influenced me and my views. Basically, my views on AI, and I think we're gonna touch it during the interview, are most aligned with the use of Yann LeCun, which is one of the godfathers of AI. And basically, many of my views were inherited from his views, inherited and extended. And I by the way, his views are not very popular. Many people don't agree with him. I give you a very simple example. He was interviewed in some podcast by my friend, Professor Raviv Ziv Schwartz, Information Bottleneck, and he told that there is no such thing as AGI, artificial general intelligence. And why there is no such thing as AGI? Because there is no such thing as general intelligence. Because even us humans we don't have really general intelligence because there are a lot of capabilities that we don't have, and many animals just have it, so it's not general. And for example, he told I don't want to develop AGI, I want to develop HLI. Do you want to give a wild guess what is HLI?
Oh, I'm not sure. Al is probably learning, but I don't know.
No, it's human level intelligence. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
Right.
it is much simpler.
All
And I
right.
really realize his views. And by the way, I'm totally agree with him that our current LLMs and our current architectures and our current training methods are not the way to HLI. Okay.
Right.
So,
Right.
and then, I don't know what is the way to HLI, but what we have currently is not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I said that for a while. I said, look, Gen AI is cool. It does great things. That's not how we're getting to HLI. It'll be some other kind of AI that we don't know about yet, at least the public doesn't. Or it may be, something that I've talked about for about 3 decades now, which is a composite AI. So AI, different kinds of AI interacting with each other, right? So kind of the way the brain does. Yeah, kind of the way the brain does.
Kinds of AIs. Yeah.
Yeah, but different kind of AI. Yeah. So that's cool. And then, so obviously you went into industry. What where did you start in industry? Because obviously we know you ended up at an AI company or DriveNet. But what did you do first?
My career is quite long. Basically, this January, I celebrated 20 years of my career. I finished my PhD in 2006, and then I started working in the Israel high-tech industry. And in a quite strange manner, I started my career in signal processing. I started working in a company which developed some base station in the technology which does not exist anymore. It tried to compete with technologies, probably you heard about it, called LTE. And this technology, it doesn't exist anymore, is called WiMAX. And they tried to do
I remember that.
a rivalry of LTE. And it was not very successful, but I gained a lot of knowledge. And by the way, you asked me about, kind of mentors or kind of people who shaped my career. And the guy who actually hired me to Runcom, the name of this company was Runcom. I don't think this company even exists anymore. But the man who hired me, his name is Doron Ezri. He's also a PhD. I'm not sure, maybe in math or in electrical engineering. And he shaped my career a lot. I learned a lot of things about him. He's a very strong mathematician, a very sharp person. And I in the start of my career, then I started working there. I have zero knowledge in signal processing, but I have some good ground in background in math. And on this ground, he hired me. He told me kind of, math. All this stuff of signal processing is based on the math. You will learn it, and I learned it, and it was quite successful because 3 years later. I started in 2006 with zero knowledge in signal processing. 3 hours later, I found myself as a lecturer in Ben Gurion University, lecturing folks of, I think it was advanced course, not BSc, but master and the PhD students about signal processing. So my learning path from Doron was very successful. By the way, we are friends till this day, and he will be one of the persons whom I will stand this podcast because I really appreciate his contribution, that he is a really cool man. And, I think there are no such sharp and clever guys. Maybe I know 3 guys which are in the same level of sharpness and knowledge as he has.
Impressive. And how long have you been doing your Data Science Decoded podcast?
My Data Science Decoded podcast, we started it, by the way, I think a year in June 2000, 1.5 years ago. Okay. Sorry, because I have two podcasts, and
Yeah.
it was hard to retrieve it from my old memory. And we basically started it in 2024, and we currently done about 35 episodes. But by the way, the idea wasn't mine. The idea was of one of my co-hosts, and I just joined him. The idea was of Daniel, but we started talking about it, and we polished this idea together. And the idea is quite cool. I'm not sure anyone is doing such things. What we are doing, they are taking some very old papers, and really old papers, from the previous century, from the 20th century. And I think we reviewed also some paper of Lagrange from 200 years ago. But the main point is not just reviewing these old, rusty, but highly influential papers. The main point is to understand how these papers actually shape the modern AI. Okay, for example, the first paper which we reviewed was a Fisher paper. Okay, Ronald Fisher. He was a very, very famous mathematician, and it was a paper about statistics. And then you think about modern AI. Modern AI is totally based on statistics. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And also we reviewed a lot of papers about optimization and about some math, which may seem to those who doesn't know math and doesn't know, I love to use the term math AI. My channel in Telegram is called Math AI with Mike, and I think we have quite many followers because these things which we are discussing are not very trivial. Okay, and their contribution to modern AI is not very trivial as well. So our main objective is to connect these old math papers with the modern state of AI. And I basically, in my head, I have solely one purpose. Math, is not very cool today. Okay, we have all these LLMs, and this LLM will do this and they'll do that, and we don't need math. I don't want to learn. I'm talking with my son. I have a son, and he's almost 13 years old, and I need also all the time to persuade him to learn math. But he does, and then he asks me, I can ask LLM, and it will do this and it will do that. So I'm explaining him about the hallucinations and that LLM is just statistical machines and stuff like that. And the main purpose of this specific podcast is to tell people that math is important and it will continue to be important. And even with all these LLMs and in the near future robots and stuff like that, still the math is essential.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Now, can you tell us at all what you're using AI for at your company?
Yeah. Currently, we have a very interesting project. I'm not sure I can tell you a lot of details. By the way, I think the project I'm working on changed since our last conversation because we started to discuss it. I guess it was in July, but we're rescheduled it a couple of times, mostly because of me. Okay, because my schedule is hectic most of the time. And now we're working on the very interesting topics. People today, and I will start from far away. Okay, people today are using LLMs, LLMs, engines, agents, and multi-agentic frameworks, and cursor and cloud code, all the stuff like that, and all this stuff is running LLMs. Okay, and these LLMs are running on something, and this something is huge clusters of GPUs of NVIDIA and of AMD. And now Google started to play in this field with their TPUs, and and AWS has their Trainium chips. And there are some rumors that Intel is doing something, although I'm not sure it will end good for Intel, by my personal opinion. Okay, so what we are doing currently is LLM inference optimization. And why it is crucially important. I know that it is maybe a bit less cool when developing some, super duper agent or super duper agentic network, which is doing some very cool stuff. But still, then you look under the hood of all your agents, you will see these LLMs, which are running on these huge clusters of GPUs. Okay. And currently what we are doing, we are trying to optimize LLM inference, running LLMs on these huge clusters of GPU. And why it is, why I think it is very important, because I have an opinion. I'm not sure I'm totally spot on this opinion, but I'm pretty sure that most of the LLM vendors are losing money. Okay. We are paying for these tokens much less than its real cost. Okay, I know for sure this OpenAI is burning billions of dollars each year, maybe tens billions of dollars. I don't know, but most of the LLM vendors are losing money. Okay, and our main responsibility, our main task is just to lower the price of LLM inference, to do stuff more efficiently. And if we succeed in that, maybe people won't need to pay a lot more money for their LLMs, for all their super duper multi-agentic systems in future. And although it is less cool, they are going and they are looking at the code kernels, and we are looking really close to the hardware. And for many people, say, I want to develop some agent which is doing this and that. I will play with some agentic frameworks. But still, I have a feeling that we are we're just trying to improve the core, because if the LLM inference is not running efficiently, maybe in 2 years from now, we will pay, instead of $20 a month, we will pay $200 or maybe even more. So, and by the way, there is a lot of math and engineering. I can't tell you what math exactly, but there are a lot of math, and quite deep math and engineering in this LLM inference optimization.
And now a word from our sponsor. Artificial Intelligence Risk Inc. accelerates adoption of GenAI safely. They provide the governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity platform that financial, healthcare, and other regulated organizations need before they can use GenAI safely and in compliance with regulatory requirements. Their software has won #1 awards for cybersecurity and compliance from Waters Technology. Find them at aicrisk.com. That totally makes sense. And, obviously people are trying to do that on hardware too, right? Like Apple bought Darwin AI, a Canadian company, to get access to, hardware that accelerates AI inference.
Twitter. Yeah, not Grok of Elon Musk.
And then Grok as well. Yeah. Grok, the hardware company. Absolutely. That was kind of like a parallel of, think of that as a risk chip for AI, right? Like a simpler chip, but very, very cool tech that actually works. And they proved it out over a period of time. Well, going back to our theme, AI is obviously making us stupid, right? So what should our strategies be as we raise our children or dealing with our coworkers or peers to help them use AI effectively without AI making us stupid? What's your advice there?
It is a very tough question. And, I think eventually AI will make most of the people stupid. I think it will make 1 or 2% of people even more smart than before, but most of the people will become stupid because AI will do a lot of things. It won't do everything, but it will do a lot of things, and we will have less, now, because AI is immature, we need to learn a lot of things. Okay, but it will change. It will change, and we will have to learn less, but still, my way not to become, more dumb with all this AI, since maybe for more than 20 years, there is no day which I don't read at least one paper from archive. And in addition, in addition, at least 1 or 2 blogs, okay? In 2006, we didn't have too much blogs. I think I started to do it, 10 years ago. And you know, you already mentioned I've written 570 reviews, and I'm trying to write at least one reviews in 3 days. Okay, at least. I think I'm writing more, and I'm not doing it with LLMs, so I'm constantly learning. And there is one more thing for me. Next, I will talk about you know, how I try to raise my kids, okay, and what I'm telling them. But what I'm doing by myself, you know, as you mentioned, I'm quite, you know, an AI influencer in the Israel AI community, and there are many people who want to talk to me, you know, to advise, and you know, I could not tell them, okay, I don't have time, and I really don't have time for them, but still. I don't tell them that. I talking to them, and I'm trying to dive in the stuff they're doing, and I'm in the advisory board of several companies, and each one is doing totally different stuff. So it keep my, you know, it keep my brain cells, you know, very diverse. They need to be connected in this way, and this way, and this way, because you know, I'm advising companies which are in cybersecurity, and there is one company in computer vision, and one company which is doing you know, evaluation of for multi-agentic systems. And in my job, I'm doing a totally different thing. So diversity in this specific context is a king. And for my kids, you know, I don't know how old your kids are, but I have two kids, 13 years old, the son, and my little girl is going to the how tell English grade, first grade. Okay, she's first grade. You know, and I'm trying to explain them that all this AI and all its dilemmas is really good, but still, even in the future, people who knows more, people who has a deeper expertise, you know, it will be easier for them, you know, to earn money and to be distinguished, you know, to be distinguished from the others. But there is a very important thing, because we are today in January 2026, all the folks who don't know to use AI tools properly, they can't succeed, because, you know, the speed, the speed of advancement of technology, the speed of advancement of the, you know, of R&D development and development is very fast. So what I tell to my son, you need to learn to read, and he has some private tutors in several disciplines. And I'm telling him, you need to understand how to use these AI tools efficiently, but still, in addition to it, you have to acquire a lot of knowledge, to read books. You know, I'm forcing him to read books, and I'm giving him bonuses for reading books. But I can't say that I'm very successful in that, because he's reading a quite modest amount of books. You know, by the way, I've read out of my life, I think, several thousands of books until the age of 38. 39, I've been reading at least 2-3 books simultaneously. I'm not talking about papers, okay? I'm talking about, you know, real books, fantasy and stuff like that. But still, I don't know what will happen with the education. It is a very, you know, it is a mystery for me, because it is going to change. We can discuss it if you want, but still, I'm trying to tell to my children, you've got to learn. You got to learn new stuff every day without any exclusion. Okay, no excuses for not learning, and you need to leverage all these AI tools for your learning, for your advancement.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. So outside of AI making us stupid and our kids, like, what most concerns you about AI in the future globally?
You know, there are several problems. Okay, I think the most important problem is not that AI is making us more dumb, and it is a fact. It is already happening. You know, I'm interviewing people for a position, and I just see I just see it in guys who are quite young. Okay, I see it. I see this tendency of learning less. But I think that what I don't understand currently, what is gonna happen to the employment? Okay, there are gonna be a lot of jobs. Okay, in high tech, all this how it is called, the blue collar jobs, the white collar job,
white collar. White collar is high tech. Yeah, white collar.
White collar jobs because currently I'm by myself. Can do things in a month. I can do things which would taken me a year or maybe more before. And I know that there are some startups which are developing quite cool projects, and they have only 2 people. And I know that in order to develop such project, such stuff, 5 years ago, they would need maybe 50 people. So I don't know what is going to happen to the employment, and I think it is, our governments should be seriously concerned about it, because I don't know. Because I have some, pessimistic expectations, but I'm not very optimistic person in general. So I don't want to tell our listeners that it's going to be very bad. But this is one problem. The second problem, as I already mentioned, is education. Currently, all this system of the university education, with huge administrations, with all these buildings, with all these face-to-face lecture, all these costs, why do we need to pay such a huge amount of money for Harvard, for Stanford? You pay tens of thousands of dollars a year. Now, almost all the knowledge, in YouTube, you can do courses, and it will improve, because now what we have now at the moment, very non-personalized education. Okay, not customized education. Okay. Currently, you are sitting in the room with the 50 or 100 more students, and you are just listening to your lecture. But it is not very effective, because each one is studying in space. Each one has its level. Each one understands stuff differently. I think, and you probably know, I'm sure you know who is Andrej Karpathy. Okay.
Oh yeah.
A very influential person in the world AI community. Okay, and I think 5 or 6 months ago, he started his new startup, and this startup will be focused on the UI education, because I think that with the modern LLMs, the modern models, we need to improve our models for sure. But still, I believe in personal education, because you and me, we think differently. Okay, they understand things differently. Things which are very easy for you are very hard for me, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So what concerns me? What are going to happen to all these university systems? Because I'm pretty sure that in 10 years it will look very differently. But then I'm asking the question: these systems, there are a lot of people involved in this university system, and then it falls. What are all these people are going to do? Okay, and they still coming back to this employment crisis, which I mentioned in my first, in the first item we discussed. So, and it is, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the things will, they'll stay as today. But I'm pretty sure that not. I can give you one fact. Okay. There is a computer science faculty, and in 2025, there are more than 40% less students than in 2024. 40% less. And this is very prestigious faculty. And this is prestigious, one of the 3 best universities of Israel. And we have here in Israel very good universities. And it is happening throughout all the country. I think it is happening also in Europe and in the United States. It is not very unique to Israel, because people understand that they can't proceed in life, let me define it this way, without formal education. They still need some knowledge, but they can acquire this knowledge, through the internet, YouTube, courses, Coursera. There are a lot of online online education platforms. So all the stuff, all the envelope which I can change. I don't know. I'm not concerned about AI, making any big problems. I'm not very concerned of scenarios like the Terminator movie. Okay, I'm not going. The robots will destroy our Earth. I think we humans will destroy it before any robots. But still, I think employment and education, these are two main topics which really concern me, because I can't predict what is gonna happen. I just don't know. It's too many variables.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So we're going to shift into the last part of the show, which is a lightning round. And I'll mention an item and ask if you think it is underrated or overrated, and maybe a sentence-wise. So these are pretty brief lightning rounds. So we're going to start it with falafel carts in Tel Aviv, underrated or overrated?
I don't think they are overrated, because maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, because I really love falafel and I eat it at least one time a week. But I think that falafel in Jerusalem is better.
Getting a math PhD, underrated or overrated?
Wow. In the light of all my answers, which I gave you before, I think it is a bit overrated. And I can mention one thing which is really important. I'm getting a lot of, I can define this respect. I mentioned, I have PhD in math, and I don't mention it because I don't think it is really important. And that I'm doing a lot of things that it's not my main characteristic. But still, there is too much respect, I think, for people who completed their PhD. They are smart people, but most of the people I'm talking to, they think we are genius. No, we are not genius. We are just, we have some talents, but we are not genius. So my answer is overrated.
Right. Okay. The significance of historical math papers in modern AI, underrated or overrated?
It is totally underrated. It is totally underrated, and this is the main reason we started to do our show. I think it is not just underrated; it is extremely underrated.
Yeah, it's standing on the shoulders of giants, right?
Yeah,
the classic phrase.
Exactly.
Well, I think I know your answer to this one already, but democratizing AI knowledge through podcasts and online communities, underrated or overrated?
I know that it is very popular, but still, although its popularity, I think it is underrated, because there is, I'm doing democratization of knowledge for many years. And, I think I personally involved more than 30 people into reviewing scientific papers. And before me, I'm the first man who started to review scientific papers in Hebrew. Okay? There's nobody before me who did it. But still, I'm not just talking about papers. There's still the importance of podcasts and democratization of knowledge is underrated, although it is very rated,
Yeah. All right. Switching gears. Going for a swim in the Red Sea, underrated or overrated?
For me it is overrated, but there's a reason for that, because I don't like swimming in salty water. I was born in Russia, and in the year I was born, there are no seas. We have some rivers, and I like swimming in a regular still water. So it is. I can tell you that it's overrated, but maybe I'm just the wrong person to ask.
Yeah. Data privacy concerns in AI, underrated or overrated?
Totally underrated, because I just read. I give you one simple example. there is some product, I don't know its name, which Google developed, something that is called personalized AI. You are basically given to this model access, to your emails, into your calendars, and to all persons. And then this model can do a lot of cool things. It can schedule meetings. It can, you want to buy some new car, and then scan your mails, and it understands which car you like. And but still, there is people love it. Okay, but after 5 years in the security domain. I'm not going to describe all the risks, but the risks are huge, and it is really underrated. And I think we need even more. We need more attention to this. To this topic.
Massive security risk. Totally agree. And giving one company everything to know everything about you is probably not a great idea. Yeah. The alternative is having your own consumer data vault that's encrypted, where you want all the data, you can share what you want with other organizations. How about research conferences in Tel Aviv? Underrated or overrated?
It depends. I've been a lecturer in many conferences in Tel Aviv, and some of them are good, and some of them were not so good. For the good, I'm not going to mention the bad ones. I'm going to mention the good one, which I gave a lecture. It was GenML 2025. It happened in November, and the end of November of 2025, and it is not underrated, but I think it is not overrated. I think it is something in between, because we really have a lot of cool conferences, and also, I'm not talking even about conferences, but meetups. We have we have an edge. I'm feeling FOMO all the time. I think there are a lot of meetups, and I just don't have time. I have family, I have kids, and I need to come back home in some reasonable hours. But there are a lot of interesting events which are happening in the Tel Aviv scene, in the Tel Aviv AI scene.
Yeah, totally makes sense. How about going to Jerusalem as a tourist? Underrated or overrated?
Sometimes the situation is in Jerusalem is not so good, not for tourists and not for the Israelis. But most of the time, I think it is quite underrated, because it is a very good city. It's a very rich history, and most of the times it's quite safe and quiet there. So I totally think that it is underrated. There are a lot of critique against Israel in the media. Israel does that and did that. But still, and it keeps people from visiting Jerusalem. But I recommend to do it. Visit Jerusalem and Dead Sea, and I'm not sure about Eilat, but Dead Sea for sure. And they have a very beautiful places in the north, in the Golan Heights, really beautiful places, and Kinneret. So, but for me, Jerusalem is totally underrated.
How about academic publishing today in machine learning? Underrated or overrated?
Wow, this one is really tough, I think it is overrated. And the main reason for that, I'm not going to give you a long answer. I think the main reason for this is that it is overrated. It is totally broken peer review. Okay?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
It is just totally broken. There are a lot of papers which are not worth the paper they are written on.
Totally agree.
Which are presented in quite prestigious conferences. I have some examples. Okay, I don't want to give these examples.
Yeah.
But still, we need to do something with all this mess with the peer review.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I've been to conferences and I've seen incredible speakers and papers. I say complete garbage, throw it away. Someone did this. Someone disproved that 10 years ago, and they just didn't know, right? Just crazy stuff. And then finally,
okay.
Go ahead.
I just want to mention one thing.
Yeah.
There is one type of paper which I hate the most. These are papers which develop, some method, and then what we are doing, They are building their own benchmark, okay? And then they prove that on their own benchmark, their methods are better than any other method.
Yeah.
There are a lot of such papers, and for me, it is total bullshit. You know,
yeah, that's
enormous
training to the test. Invent the test and then train to it. Yeah, that's actually brings up a broader issue, right? Where a lot of the race between the large Gen AI based model makers is on these defined tests, like humanities last exam and things like that. And the problem is they know what the questions and the answers are. They're just training to the test, right? It would be like someone taking the SATs, the United States, and saying, here's a test you're going to take, and here are the answers. All you have to do as a student is memorize the answers, right? Yeah. So it's not quite as simple as that, but still, that's one of the issues today.
Totally agree.
And then finally, the Disney movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, underrated or overrated?
Okay, it is a very difficult question, especially for me, because I barely know. I think it is a good question to ask my daughter, but I think that my little daughter really loves this movie, so I can say that it is.
That's good. I think you go with your daughter's pick there, so that's great.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been really fun. Our guest is Michael Erlihson, math PhD, AI influencer. He's got 2 podcasts and head of AI at a somewhat stealthy company, DriveNet. Michael, can you tell people where to find you, where to find your podcasts, et cetera?
Okay. By the way, our podcast, the best way to find our podcast is on YouTube. It is called, I have 2 podcasts. One in Hebrew and one in English. The one in English is called Data Science Decoded, and you can easily find it on YouTube and Spotify. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not sure by 100% that it is also on Apple Podcasts, but it is for sure on YouTube and on Spotify. The second podcast for Hebrew speakers, or for those who can who can listen to these subtitles, is also on YouTube. It is called Explainable, Explainable podcast of Uri Goren and Mike Erlihson, and they have a new co-host called Alec, who just joined our team a couple of months ago. And for my content, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I have a lot of followers on LinkedIn, so you can just search Mike Erlihson. And I have also, the last thing, 2 Telegram channels, which I think we'll put the links under the episode. I don't remember what the exact names, Mathy AI with Mike, but we will put all the links in the episode. And basically it is all.
Awesome. Mike, so great to have you in the show. That was so much fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
You are listening to the AI Risk Reward podcast with your host, Alec Crawford. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, for example, Apple Podcasts. Production and sound engineering by Troutman Street Audio. You can find them on LinkedIn. Please like, subscribe, and comment.